So this commemoration here today, an important milestone in American history. It's my honor, along with the First Lady of Virginia, to welcome all of you here from across Virginia, across the nation, and some from foreign lands. We're glad you're here. It's an honor to be here with so many members of my cabinet, the Chief of Staff, members of the General Assembly, leaders in local government, from all branches of government, law enforcement, and members of the General Assembly, and Dr. Ayers. Thank you all for coming. On July 21st, 1861, this land was the site of a very savage and vicious battle, the first major military engagement of what would be termed the Civil War. Thousands died in just a few hours, and names like Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee became household names. It was on this day that both sides came to the sobering realization that the quick and easy victory that they had hoped for would not happen, and this would be a battle that would in fact tear the nation asunder. Over the course of the next 4 years, Virginia, perhaps more than any other state, was the battleground upon which the fate of the Union, America itself, depended. Here on the soil of the Old Dominion, tens of thousands of Americans from both the North and the South gave their lives for their cause. In fact, 122 major battles took place here in Virginia. But it all started 150 years ago today at the first Battle of Manassas. And the history that we commemorate today has a certain sense of irony, because you see, this land upon which we sit today in part belonged to Wilbur McLean, who was a local grocery owner. McLean moved away from here 2 years after the Battle of Manassas, hoping to avoid any more future fights in his front yard or cannonballs down his chimney. In fact, he chose a quiet, sleepy village far away from here in Southern Virginia, a place that he thought he could live in peace, a place called Appomattox Courthouse. Wilbur McLean said after the war began in my front yard and ended in my front parlor. Only in Virginia can you find history like that. And that is why we are inviting our fellow Americans and people from around the world to come to Virginia over these next 4 years to commemorate the sesquicentennial of the most important and historic event ever to take place on American soil. I know that with the work of the Speaker and so many others that have participated in the planning for these events, that the full story of American history will be told, recalling the extreme sacrifices of citizens, soldiers, slaves, and free who lived and died here in the nation's greatest battle. Much will be learned from the discussions and the debates about the cause, the tactics, and the legacy of the war. After it's done, I believe it will make us a better and stronger and more united people. This sesquicentennial will also bring tourism and jobs and economic activity to our Commonwealth. If you're here from out of state, please spend lots of money while you're here. But on behalf of all my fellow 8 million Virginians, I welcome America and international history buffs to Virginia for a chance to reflect upon the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. Although the history books tell us of Virginia's contribution to the Civil War, there is simply no substitute for being here on the hallowed ground, for getting a sense of the place and the history, to see the redoubts and the hills and the statues, and to get a sense of what happened here. It is also a reminder that we need to preserve these lands for antiquity, for future generations, our children and grandchildren, who also will desire to walk in this spot and sense the history. For the National Park Service and all those who are engaged in the preservation of American history in these battlefields, I salute you. We know well that the legacies of the Civil War still have the potential to divide us today. But I say to you, we must not let that happen, but instead grow stronger together as a united states. Until the Civil War, that founding principle that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights was undermined by slavery. Slavery was an evil and inhumane practice which degraded people to property, which defied the eternal truth that men and women are created in the image and likeness of God and endowed by those inalienable rights. And that institution left a stain on the soul of this nation. Until the Emancipation Proclamation was issued to abolish slavery and the Civil War ended, and the Constitution of the United States was amended with the 13th and 14th Amendment, our much-needed national reconciliation could not begin. Our founders' vision of a more perfect union is still a work in progress, and all of us have an important and leading role to play in that vision. But look at all the progress that we have made. Visitors that come to Virginia today will find a diverse commonwealth of 8 million people, the home of the nation's first African-American governor, the 12th most populated state, the 8th most prosperous state, a place that is a repository of great natural beauty, of hope and opportunity, a place that, as we commemorate today, was refined in the crucible of bloodshed and conflict, but a place where we continue to renew our commitment to the founding ideal of equal liberty and justice and opportunity for all. Virginia has become part of what is now, I believe, the greatest country on earth, the United States of America. But as we sit or stand here today on this hallowed ground, we must remember, too, that right now, young men and women in uniform are serving this nation in the mountains of Afghanistan and the deserts of Iraq. The same heroism, courage, and valor that was displayed in Wilbur McLean's front yard 150 years ago continues to be demonstrated by American military men and women around the world. Today, while we remember those lost in the wars of the past, while we remember the sacrifices made on these battlegrounds in the past, it is absolutely imperative that our thoughts and prayers remain engaged in support of those engaged in the wars of the present. For President Washington said that the willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional as to how they perceive that the veterans of earlier wars were treated and appreciated by their nation. So for that, support our veterans, support our military. Thank you for joining us here from around the world to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the first Battle of Manassas. America was born in Virginia in 1607, and it was reunited in Virginia in 1865. And now Virginia welcomes America and the world to our state to learn about our history and prepare for our shared future of prosperity and opportunity. Thank you very much.